Welcome to a noob's guide to Gorbad Ironclaw. This is Gorbad Ironclaw, the orc war boss every other Wa is measured against. Burn down the Empire? Gorbad did it first. Unite the greenskins? Still Gorbad. Kill 2 giants at once in a duel, which by definition would no longer be a duel? Call it a Gorbad, because when it comes to green-skinned granddaddies, Gorbad is the Simpsons, an unstoppable cultural behemoth that refuses to die. In this video, we'll go over Gorbad's lore, how he got the name Ironclaw, hint, it's that thing in his hand, and how all of that has been adapted to Total War Warhammer 3, to make Gorbad the one orc who uses muscles, masses, and God help us all, basic military tactics. To unlock Gorbad in-game, you must complete the epic quest of opening your wallet and buying his DLC, giving you access to Gorbad, a legendary lord who is already available via mods, a generic lord and hero who have both been mods since Warhammer 1, and 3 units, who were all already available as free mods, and a spider with a flinger on its back, which is like gluing wheels onto your sneakers and claiming you've revolutionized travel. The last new unit, though, is Mangler Squigs, which they're beautifully animated and are worth the price of admission just on their own. Just look at these goblins desperately trying to hold on as these squigs flail around with their tongues and chains flapping about. It's like trying to date someone with a butterfly tattoo on their lower back. You know it's going to end badly, but the ride is so worth it. That's not to say CA's other official units aren't good. The art is solid, and they are fully integrated into the tech trees, and this DLC comes with a free Greenskin and Goblins update. It's just a lot less impressive when a multi-million-dollar company does the same thing that a dude in his garage can manage.
Shameful display!
But even though we didn't get weapon swapping, big stabbas, or squig gabbas, you can still muffle your tears and Gorbad's bulging biceps. This hulking chief of the Ironclaw tribe rose to power by fortifying the Iron Rock, an orc stronghold in the northern Badlands where you'll start your game. The dwarfs had happily gobbled up the mountain of vomited molten iron until Gorbad's orcs kicked the dirtlickers out 800 years ago. And the dwarfs remain as butthurt about it as ever, proving that once again, the Great Book of Grudges is less about revenging wrongs than it is recording the failings of a bunch of greedy, bearded weirdos who think everything underground belongs to them just because they stand closer to it. Gorbad's horrific deeds made him a legend among his own kind. It's said he could single-handedly destroy entire regiments with just his iron fist, and I highly recommend you do that, as beating and then confederating other orc tribes is the fastest way to grow your Wa. But it wasn't his strength that made him the king of all war bosses. Orc war bosses generally feel that weaker, green-skinned units are as useful as sandpaper in an outhouse, but Gorbad can see potential in anyone. He was a master at using goblin skirmish screens and wolf rider flank attacks. Gorbad was even happy to use massed archery and artillery batteries if it got the job done. Simply put, he used the troops he had and drove them to do their best, which makes him the poster orc for agile management, as he had already gone through Scrum, Lean, and Waterfall before he found that the perfect leadership style for orcs was stomping up and down on them until they agree with you. And it was these iron-shod tactics that let Gorbad loot dwarf hold after dwarf hold, not even leaving a copper nail in his wake. Eventually, he was even able to walk up to the dwarf capital of Karaz-Akarak itself and bang on its doors, leaving a dent in the metalwork and a trough in the dirt from dragging his huge balls away from the dwarf capital. Because that's the power of Gorbad Ironclaw. So I'm confused what this anemic metal appendage is. I guess they lacked reference art for badass giant punching fists. I mean, if only someone had created a giant powered metal fist in a fantasy setting. Because let's be honest here, everything is better with a power fist. Thanos, better with a power fist. Gazkul, better with a power fist. Internet memes, better with a power fist. Because as much as I want to go Hellboy and obliterate my enemies with the right hand of doom, that's not how Gorbad works in-game. You can sum up his playstyle with his 3 unique abilities. The Great Leader, the Boss as a Plan, and Orcs are the best. all of which give varying degrees of defense and attack, because when you're a hammer, all the world is a nail, and when you're an orc, you might hurt yourself trying to use a hammer, so just go chop some things. And that is what Gorbad does best. If they're green and mean, then it's definitely his scene. And you should think of his campaign as the ultimate orc support general, buffing the units around him to ever greater heights of destruction. Gorbad is the cunningest orc around, which is a bit like saying your monster truck gets the best gas mileage, but the cunningness of his plans are perfectly captured in his unique skill line, which is also the only one that can be read as a sentence and is legitimate formation advice for Total War games.
Here's the plan. Boys to the front, shoot us to the back, ride us to the flanks. I'll lead the charge. Now let's go to war!
With inspired use of siege engines, Gorbad scoured the shires of the Moot and dabbled in a bit of war crimes with target practice on halfling refugees escaping by the river. Gorbad then used these newly honed ballistic skills to assault the fortified city of Averheim, where he intentionally targeted its defensive towers before attacking to limit casualties, putting him ahead of 99% of Total War siege players. At the city of Nuln, its elector count attempted the camping player's favorite defensive standby against overwhelming hordes and turtled on a bridge. But Gorbad reminded him why Total War games still need naval battles and floated an armada downstream of big guns to establish a beachhead, then knocked together a floating bridge and then put the city to the torch, feeding its elector count to his pig, Narla. Throwing a reverse luau that is actually possible, as pigs will really eat a human, and even Narla's size, while big for a boar, is within normal growth range somehow. The point is, you should never turn your back on a pig. Gorbad won all these battles because he used the tools he had at hand, or Ironclaw in his case. You can experiment with Gorbad's battle strategies through Da Plan, a mechanic that has you devise new tactics by matching different units within your armies, pair them together, and activate to unlock unit bonuses, abilities, and campaign perks. You can unlock new tactics by completing a new one's requirements, or by having a Eureka moment with Gorbad after battles. You can have multiple plans active at the same time, and they generally last a few turns. Instead of thinking of it as a worse version of Grom's Cauldron, think of it as Ocean 11 style heist plans. Do you want to crack the vault at the Imperial Casino? Well, that needs a Cincinnati shuffle, so you'll need 2 trolls, a goblin, and a unicorn. But in a pinch, you can just glue a broom onto a horse's head. Breaking into the Great Bastion of Cathay needs muscle. That's 3 giants, an Arachnarok spider, and 2 goblins again, just in case anyone gets hungry. Play with the plans, have fun, and experiment with wacky combinations to see what works. There is no one doomstack answer, and needing to come up with new solutions to fight each faction keeps you from auto-resolving to the end of the game. To win as Gorbad, you first need to unite the Badlands, beating every greenskin tribe into a pulp and then confederating them into your Wa. Then, destroy the Empire and wipe Weissenland and Nuln from existence because screw those guys in particular. The only thing that will be left standing in your way is Altdorf, capital of the Empire, which historically did stop Gorbad in his tracks, and left him with a sticky wound that wouldn't heal and kept him out of the final fight, so that he was forced to unleash a flock of feral wyverns to screen his next assault. It didn't help him take the city, but they did eat the Emperor, so we'll call that a Pyrrhic victory. But as his army ran away with sacks full of gold and bellies full of halflings, Gorbad headed for home, only to find the dwarf army of Karazakarak waiting on him at the Battle of Blood Peak. The stunty stiffs hadn't been able to buff out the scar Gorbad had left on their front door and weren't about to foot the repair bill. Gorbad was last seen surrounded by a pile of dwarf bodies so high they could almost reach the top shelf, stacked there by Gorbad's merciless axe, Morglord the Mangler, which you can get as a quest item in-game. If the dwarfs managed to kill Gorbad, they certainly didn't mention it, which is how you can be sure he survived. Given half a chance, a dwarf will sing all day about gold and living 7 deep with an impressionable youth. So if they topped the biggest green bad of all time, they very well wouldn't shut up about it. So it's time you brought the granddaddy of all greenskins out of retirement and remind them who the biggest war boss really is, because this has been a Noob's Guide to Gorbad Ironclaw.